Once when the Buddha came to teach his disciples, he was holding a beautiful silk handkerchief in his hand. Thousands of disciples were waiting, and when they saw him coming towards them, they were surprised to see the Buddha carrying that handkerchief. When the Buddha stood up and asked, "What do you see?" and they replied that it was a beautiful silk handkerchief. Then the Buddha started tying knots on the handkerchief one by one until he tied 5 knots. Then he asked if it was the same handkerchief. The disciples replied that it was the same handkerchief, but now it was tied in knots. The Buddha gently explained, "This is your lesson today. We are all Buddhas, but some people cannot recognize the value of the silken cloth because they are in knots." Then he continued to pull the handkerchief from both sides and asked if the knots could be untied in this way. The disciples said in unison that this would only make the knots tighter and harder to untie. The Buddha then asked, "Why do many people try to untie the knots by stretching them? Although the intention is good, the purpose cannot be fulfilled. They are trying, but it is in vain, and they are even causing more trouble. Doing so would only make things more complicated." He continued to address the disciples and asked, "If we want to untie these knots, what should we do?" One monk replied that he would go closer, observe, and try to understand how the knots are formed. If we see how the problem is formed, we will be able to untie it.